NHL regular season recap, night 130. We start today off with a massively important game between the Tampa Bay Lightning and New Jersey Devils. No goals in the first period in this one. It looks like a pretty decent start for the goalies, despite there only being 15 shots in the first. In the second, though, the Bolts kind of take control of the game. Victor Hedman and Braden Point both score in the first 4.5 minutes. Tyler Toffoli would score a few minutes later on the power play to make it 2-1, but in the third, it's Brandon Hagel and Nikita Kucherov who scores the empty netter, and it's a 4-1 win for the Lightning again. This is a huge one. Despite sitting 5th in the Atlantic, the Lightning are the second wildcard spot for the time being. Of course, Detroit took care of business today, so that remained the case. Just not enough here from New Jersey. They get outshot 27-19. You can't expect to get enough goals to win when only getting 19 shots, especially not in a game of this stature. Jonas Johansson got the start thanks to the back-to-back. He goes 18 of 19, a 947 save percentage. Akira Schmid off the call-up, 23 of 26, and 885. Hard to blame this game on him. Again, you only get one goal. It's really, really hard to win. It's a 4-1 win for the Bolts, and it's a big one. The Battle of Pennsylvania, the Penguins hosting the Flyers, and I hope my lungs are in good shape because there was a lot of goals in this one. Scott Laughton opens it up 2-11 into the first, and then Crosby and Russ counter that to make it 2-1 after one. Ty Forrester would tie it less than a minute into the second, and then Rust with his second, and Bemstrom with his first as a member of the Penguins makes it 4-2 before Sanheim and Laughton both score again to tie us up at 4 heading into the third, where it's Drew O'Connor, Ricard Raquel, Cam York, Chris Letang, and Forrester with his second of the game, and it all nets out to a 7-6 final for Pittsburgh. This one was a banger. Both the goalies sucked, of course, 7-6. You don't expect the goalies to perform very well. Tristan Jarry faces just 21 shots. He gives up 6. That's a 714 save percentage and a win. That's impressive stuff. The Flyers, on the other hand, Cal Peterson getting to start thanks to their back-to-back. He gives up 7 goals on 32 shots, a 781, and despite having the better save percentage, that performance is the absolutely unacceptable one. If your team outshoots the other team, outplays the other team all around, you cannot give up 7 goals. I know he's been in the minors. I know he's really only here because of the whole Carter Hart situation, but you need some saves in this game. The Flyers are thanking their lucky stars that the Devils lost earlier in the day because this is a game they should just never lose, especially not in regulation, but they do so to the Penguins, and for the Penguins, it's also a very, very big win. Again, 7-6 is the final. The Hurricanes taking on the Sabres, and this is a gutsy win from the Sabres. Tony DeAngelo scores his 3rd of the year in the first, Jeff Skinner his 19th of the year in the second, and then Natchez and Owen Power trade goals in the third, just about a minute apart to force overtime. Nothing going in the overtime, and then in the shootout, Casey Middlestad is the eventual hero. The first 3 rounds were all goalless. Natchez gets stopped. Middlestad scores. It's a 3-2 shootout victory for Buffalo. Both goalies pretty solid in this one, actually identical save percentages, both 30 of 32, a 938 for each of Spencer Martin and Ukko Pekka-Luukkonen, but UPL makes the one extra save in the shootout, and that is the difference in the point for tonight. The Canes still in second in the Metro. They don't make up any ground on the Rangers, today. I guess they do get the point. The Rangers having a tough time with Columbus during their game, but we'll get to that in a bit. For now, it's a 3-2 win for Buffalo over the Canes. The Red Wings visiting Chicago for Chris Chelios' jersey retirement night, but also for the return of Patrick Kane to Chicago for the first time since being traded to the Rangers back last season. It didn't look great for the Red Wings until the third period. Daniel Sprong scored first in the first period with a few seconds to go to make it 1-0 after one, but that would be canceled out by Mackenzie Entwistle pretty early on in the second, and then near the end of the second, Nick Foligno would score on the power play to make it 2-1 Hawks, and it would go all the way until just over 4 minutes left in the third before not Patrick Kane, but Alex DeBrincat scores to tie it, his 22nd of the year, assisted by Goss Despair and Patrick Kane, of course, and then in the overtime, it's a storybook ending, a good chance for the Hawks, but all 3 of their players, including defenseman Seth Jones, sink way too low into the zone. DeBrincat breaks up the offensive play, chips it up to the neutral zone where it's Patrick Kane versus the world, and he buries it on Peter Mrazek. A perfect storybook ending to his return to Chicago, and it's a 3-2 victory for the Red Wings, despite the fact that this is just a great story in general. Once again, a huge win for the Wings. They're still carrying this positive momentum. They've had a good little stretch of games, and this continues largely on the backs of Alex DeBrincat and Patrick Kane, as well as James Reimer, who had a pretty good effort in this one. He goes 33 for 35, a 943 save percentage, while again, Peter Mrazek, the less busy of the 2 goalies, not too often, but it's happened a few times in the last week. He goes 28 for 31 and a 903 save percentage in a losing effort. Huge win for the Wings. Great story in general for Patty Kane, Alex DeBrincat, Chris Chelios. The list goes on. 3-2 Red Wings is the final. The Jets taking on the Arizona Coyotes, and the Yotes trying oh so hard to break this losing skid that they're on, but They just can't seem to do it. They did not have a lead in this game at any point, but they made it interesting at the end, just not quite able to get it done. Mark Scheifele, Nick Schmaltz, Kyle Connor, and Gabe Vilardi all scoring in the first, so it's 3-1 Jets after one. Matias Maccelli would score to make it a one-goal game in the second, and early in the third, Nick Schmaltz with his second of the night ties us up at 3. No goals until we get to OT, and it's Kyle Connor once again, his 23rd of the year. Big nights from him and Mark Scheifele. Of course, he has 2 goals. Scheifele with a goal and 3 assists, and of course, Connor Hellebuck had to be pretty solid in this one. He goes 29 for 32, a 906 save percentage. Ingram, on the other hand, 28 for 32 for an 875. The Yotes just can't catch a win, man. I kind of feel bad from this point. It's been a long time for them. The Jets, meanwhile, continue to roll on a pretty good clip since their little losing skid a few weeks back. They're still second in the Central, I believe, just a point behind Dallas now at 35-15-5. In the final game tonight, the Blue Jackets taking on the New York Rangers, and Elvis Merzlikins ends up being the better of the 2 goalies. It's a 4-2 win for Columbus. Voronkov and Panarin trade goals in the first, and then in the second, it's Marchenko, Edstrom, Roslovic, and Provorov all scoring. We have no goals in the third, so it stays a 4-2 final for the Blue Jackets. Again, Merzlikins was fantastic. He goes 38 for 40, a 950 save percentage from him. Jonathan Quick was not bad by any means in this one. He faced 41 shots, but of course gives up the 4 goals. It's a 902 save percentage for Quickie, just not quite enough for the win. Roslovic, Voronkov, and Merzlikins, the 3 stars honors in this one. Again, the Blue Jackets are not playing for anything at this point in the year, but wins like this are always fun, especially when your goalie kind of backpacks you, and it's good to see that for Merzlikins. He's, of course, had a bit of a rough year, better than some of his previous ones, but still not great by typical NHL standards. Nonetheless, a 4-2 victory for the Blue Jackets here, and that's going to be it for NHL regular season recap. Night 1:30. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow night. And the real final game of the night, because I wasn't paying attention, is the Preds taking on the Ducks. Yossi and Lundestrom trade goals in the second period, and then Forsberg, McCarron, Leeson, and Nyquist all score in the third. It's a 4-2 win for Nashville, as it should be. Lankinen, 29 of 31, a 935, and then DeStahl, 25 of 28 for an 893 in the losing effort. It's a good effort from the Ducks, but as it should be, the Preds win this one. They keep their playoff race alive. Not that it would have died with the loss to the Ducks, but like their game against the Sharks, you got to beat these teams. They take care of business. 4-2 Preds in this one. NHL regulars. Wow.